Hey guys, here we go with chapter 3, The Briars. Most of the residents of Briarlane refer to the county children's home as that shabby old building at the end of town. Shabby was evidently in the eye of the beholder, for Ethan Cooper was sure they were approaching a palace. The closer they came to the big front door, the slower Ethan walked. Could this really be the place Russell had told them about? Ethan had never seen a building so grand. Surely they wouldn't be able to live here. He grasped Will's hand tighter and pulled the little boy up the steps. Should they open the door and walk in, or did one knock at such a place? The decision was made for him as Simon stood on tiptoe and grabbed a round handle in the center of the door. A sharp bell rang in response, and the little boy dropped the handle and ducked behind his brother. Ethan was frightened, but held his ground. After all, where could they go now? He heard the echo of the clanging bell. Then voices sounded clearly through the heavy door. Who has door duty this week? I do. I'm going. Running footsteps sounded, and the door was jerked open. A girl of about 12 stared with an open mouth at a group arranged before her, unattended by any adult. Where'd you come from? The girl blurted. She scanned the road. Who brought you? I did, Ethan replied. You never? How old are you? Blue Eyes challenged Ethan. I'm 8 years old, and I did so. Ethan was indignant. Maybe they wouldn't let them stay, but he wasn't going to have his word doubted. Who is it, Shayla? A soft voice asked from the hallway. I don't know, Mrs. Lehman. There's 4 of them, and a boy says he brought them. Well, bring them in and close the door. Shayla stepped back, allowing the children to come into the warm hallway. Ethan gazed around in awe. Straight ahead, a wide staircase led to the upper floor. He could hear feet running and voices calling to one another. The aroma of fresh bread wafted from the back of the building. Suddenly, Ethan realized that he was terribly hungry. His heart pounded as he looked at the lady standing before them. What if there was no room for them? Or worse yet, what if this lady didn't want them? He might get along all right, but what would happen to the others? For the first time that day, Ethan felt real fear. You've come by yourselves? The soft voice asked. Yes, ma'am. We came on a trolley, and the man from the station brought us here. Is this the asylum? This is the children's home, yes. You are just in time for supper. Shayla, take them up to the matron to get ready. We'll talk after you've eaten. She put her hand gently on Ethan's shoulder and smiled at him. What are your names? I'm Ethan. This is Alice and Simon and Will. The woman nodded. I'm Mrs. Lehman. Matron will take care of you. Run along now. Shayla tossed her head and marched down the hallway with her nose in the air. You can follow me if you want to. Her stiff back proclaimed clearly that these strangers weren't her problem. Being on door duty didn't mean she was responsible for what came through it. When Ethan and his siblings returned to the main floor with matron for supper, the long tables in the dining room seemed crowded with children of all ages. It was a bewildering sight. The Cooper family shrank back against the door as 26 pairs of eyes turned toward them. The lady with the soft voice came to their rescue. We have a surprise tonight, everyone. Here are 4 more children come to stay. Bert, will you come and take Ethan to your table? And Betsy, make room for Alice next to you. Simon and Will may sit with matron tonight. A freckle-faced boy grinned cheerfully and led Ethan to a seat. Alice went with Betsy, and matron shepherded the 2 little boys to a table. Everyone became silent, and with her head bowed, the lady spoke again. Lord, thank you for this day and for the rain that has blessed the earth. You have given us this food, and we are grateful. Bless the new children who have come to be with us. We welcome them in your name. Amen. Large bowls of soup, thick with meat and vegetables, were ladled out. Slices of bread and butter were passed around, and wonder of wonders, every child had a mug of cold milk. Alice glanced furtively around the table, and then Ethan heard her ask Betsy, can we eat all of this, or must we save some for tomorrow? You eat it all, and you can have more if you want it. We have lots of food here. We grow our own gardens. This was hard to believe. The garden at home had never produced a meal like this. Ethan ate gratefully, and from the look of it, his siblings did too. By the time supper was over, Will had fallen asleep with his head on the table. Matron picked him up. You come with us, she said to Simon. Betsy, take Alice up to the girls' room. Ethan, Mr. Lehman will see you in the office. Bert will take you there. Ethan watched anxiously as his brothers and sisters were led away, and then he followed Bert down the long hallway and into the office. Mrs. Lehman sat in a chair, and Mr. Lehman stood at his desk studying the letter Rachel had put in the flour sack with their clothes. Ethan waited patiently as Mr. Lehman read it aloud. Dear sir, our pa has left us, and us older ones can't take care of the little ones any longer. They are good and won't be any trouble. Ethan Allen, born November 17th, 1898. Alice Carroll, born July 24th, 1901. Simon Peter, born April 24th, 1903. William Andrew, born June 22nd, 1904. Rachel Cooper. This doesn't tell us much, George Lehman said. We'll have to try and locate the father. If the past is any indication, we'll probably arrange it so that he can't be located. Mrs. Lehman sighed. I'm thankful that we have room. We don't usually get them 4 at a time. It's hard to believe that child took charge of bringing them here. She spoke as though Ethan were invisible, and he listened with growing apprehension. They would be allowed to stay tonight, but would they be sent away tomorrow? There were a lot of children around the tables in the dining room. What if they only had room for some of the Cooper family? No, Ethan decided. If we can't all stay, I'll take everyone back home. How this was to be accomplished, he didn't know, but his mind was made up. They had already lost half their family. Nothing was going to separate the rest of them. Mr. Lehman smiled at Ethan as he stood in front of the desk. Well, young man, I hear that you've brought your brothers and sisters to the Briars by yourself. That was a long trip to make alone. Yes, sir, Ethan answered, but I can take care of them. They depend on me. I'll see that they behave if you'll let us stay. Certainly you may stay, Mr. Lehman assured him, and you'll have help looking after them now. Now you've had a long day. Bert will show you where you'll sleep, and tomorrow we'll get better acquainted. The long room in which the older boys slept was furnished with a cot and a small cupboard for each child. Ethan was assigned a bed next to Bert, who seemed delighted to have a new friend his own age. I'll show you around tomorrow, Bert promised. This place is pretty nice when you ain't got no family to stay with. Ethan fell asleep at once. Several hours later, though, he awoke with a start and studied the strange room. The beds on his side held junior boys. On the opposite wall, 5 older boys' beds were lined up. Simon and Will weren't in this room. If they wake, Ethan thought, they'll be frightened. Neither one had ever slept alone in a bed. Carefully, Ethan padded across the hallway to the little boy's room. There he found that Simon had crawled into bed with Will. Ethan pulled the covers over both of them. For tonight, they were taken care of. And that is the end of chapter 3.